The ISO with Dan Dickau and SB Live Sports, brought to you by the Believe Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network for professionals.
It was neat to see you play, and it's fun to talk to you all these years later because you played with a lot of joy and you played with passion. And I've seen Dan Dickau hit some big shots in the NCAA tournament.
Every morning when I'm working out, I'm listening to your podcast. Keep up the great work.
Well, I got to salute you, man. Like, I've been watching you since I was in high school, trying to mimic all your moves.
I think there were a lot of kids who looked at Dan Dickau and said, Dan Dickau can play at this level, I can play at this level.
Welcome to today's episode of The ISO with myself, your host, Dan Dickau, and SB Live Sports on the Believe Podcast Network. This week's releases are a little different. Normally, in a normal year, this is state tournament week. In the state of Washington, there would be the best players and the best teams putting on some incredible performances, whether it's in Tacoma, Yakima, or in Spokane in the state of Washington. Today's guest more than likely would have been involved from Olympia High School, player Jackson Grant and head coach John Kiley. I appreciate you guys joining. How goes life for you guys in Olympia right now? Start with you, Coach.
Yeah, it's different. A year ago today, we were playing Auburn in the first round of the state tournament and had high hopes to be doing the same thing this year. And it was different. Everyone's battling through their own pandemic story. And obviously, there's a lot of people that are a lot worse off than we are. And so, that's the reality. But we just keep grinding. We're working in growth mode, and guys are working on changing their bodies daily. And we've gone to a few tournaments and just tried to continue the progress of growth and keeping that mindset of, we've had the phrase dominate the weight, and we've done the best job we can to just keep moving forward.
Awesome. Sounds like you put together a plan to be as involved with your players as you can during such a weird time. Jackson, a year ago, as mentioned, you were playing in the state tournament in Tacoma. Give me your best memory from last year at the state tournament, whether it was a team performance or maybe an individual performance.
I think my best memory was winning that game on the last day to get fourth place. I think it was the sixth game, because we had just lost to Union the night before when we were all kind of bummed, but we knew we had one more game to come out and finish the season strong. So we came out and came together, and I love that senior group. I've been really close to them, playing with them for a while. So to come out and end their season on a win, and then just to have all our fans up there, we had a super good crowd that whole week at the state tournament. So being able to play in front of them and end the season on a win was a super good feeling.
You're a player who's committed to play at the University of Washington. You signed in the fall. You weren't impacted like a lot of players not having a true traditional AAU spring and summer because you had kind of really set yourself apart early in your high school career. Because you already know where you're going to play college, what has been your focus with workouts throughout the last year or so?
So for me, my focus with workouts has just been working on my game and my body, just getting stronger. I've put on 10 pounds throughout this kind of quarantine since the end of last season, and been working with a trainer that Coach Kiley put me with the team, and then just trying to improve my game as much as I can in all the different areas.
Coach, you mentioned kind of dominate the weight, and this year there will be no state tournament. It looks like games will be league and regional games. What is the message that you're starting to prepare for the first time you get a true practice with your ball club this spring?
We're still hopeful and praying that with vaccines and things change, and maybe that third season will afford something that's more traditional. But I can't wait to get into the gym and look everybody in the eye and know that we've done everything we possibly could in the last year, not just to get stronger, but to help people in our community. There's been a lot of people that have been hurting, and so we've tried to do some different things to do our thing. But then it's just game on. Whatever games we can get on our schedule, we're excited to line up and get after it. So that's been the message: how we can keep growing, how we can keep serving, and then when it's time to battle, that we are full on.
Want to give a brief moment to talk about our newest sponsor, eBay. Whether rare, dead stock, or the latest release, find the exact shoe you're looking for. As the original sneaker marketplace, eBay is the place to go to cop the pair you've been eyeing. With eBay's authenticity guarantee, your sneakers are meticulously inspected by independent professional authenticators. A team of experienced sneaker authenticators verify the box, logo, stitching, and dozens of other inspection points. Each sneaker also receives an authenticity guarantee tag that includes a digital stamp of authenticity. And it also protects sellers with a verified return process. And for sneaker sellers out there, eBay has eliminated selling fees on sneakers over $100, making it free to sell or flip your collection. Go to ebay.com/sneakers today. eBay, the world's best destination for discovering great value and unique selection. Jackson, you just received one of the highest accolades a high school player can receive. You were named a McDonald's All-American. First off, big time congratulations on that. What were the emotions going through your head when you got the news? Because as I mentioned, all high school players want that, but there's very few guys each year that receive that honor.
Right. And I think the first emotion that went through my head was just shock of seeing my name on TV. My mom was really trying to make sure I could see that show. And then when Tiger Woods crashed his car or something, that was on ESPN, so we had to change the channel. My mom kept trying to change the channel. And I remember not being super excited to watch it because I thought there was a chance I could make it, but I didn't think it was a very high chance. So I was like, oh, I'll just look at the list when it comes out on social media. But then when I saw my name on TV, I was just shocked and realized kind of why my mom she actually knew that morning instead of the coach. So they were trying to get everybody to watch it, and that made me kind of realize why they were trying and wanting everybody to watch it so bad. And then I just started thinking about all the people that were coming for me that are McDonald's All-Americans and kind of the elite company that I'm in now for being named that as a senior in high school.
That's awesome. That's a really good story. Now, Coach, Jackson played for a really good AAU program with the head coach of that program, Washington Supreme, Carl Howell. But what was your role in the recruiting process? Because many high school coaches, as I feel should be, are involved in the process, sharing information about players as well as relaying information back and forth and being a support mentor to look at the big picture. What was your role in Jackson's recruitment?
Yeah, first off, shout out to Coach Howell of Washington Supreme. You know, when Jackson committed to Supreme, he had laid out some plans for Jackson and his other players. And I've been just, as a high school coach, super thankful for the follow through, the commitment that Coach Howell has shown Jackson and the other kids. So I think that was a huge factor in not only Jackson's growth, but ultimately making the McDonald's All-American team. And so to me, you know, early on, coaches started to call about Jackson, and I happened to be a TIE member up at University of Washington, and so I saw Coach Hopkins a couple of years ago. Saw him in a hotel, talked about Jackson, and I said, you probably have everybody telling you about every 6'10" kid in the world when they run into you at a gym in the bottom of a Marriott. But he kind of laughed, and then literally 3 months later said, hey, I hear your kid's pretty good. And so that started the recruitment that way. And so he and Coach Rice have been pretty well connected with me through the process. Obviously, Coach Howell took a big lead in that and helped propel Jackson to where he is. But we have a team from Coach Howell to what we try to do. We have a strength coach in Justin Wimberly, Dom Hunter, who used to play for my select team. And we've been Mark Bigelow, who you might remember, Coach Dickau, that when he played at Olympia, played for me years ago and was kind of involved in these kind of recruiting deals. And so, again, just trying to promote Jackson at the same time. I think the Supreme connection was really big for him.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about that program. Coach Howell is a friend of mine. But you know, at the end of the day, there are a lot of really good programs in the state of Washington that do a good job of helping their kids search out opportunities at the next level if they're good enough. Now, Jackson, you're signed, committed, ready to go to University of Washington next year. They've had some struggles this year, and Coach Hopkins is as energetic and as positive guy as there is as a head coach at the college level. What has his message been to you as far as what you need to continue to work on to get ready to help them next season?
He's just been super excited, and I think the message from him was to just make sure that I'm ready to go up there. Because before the last couple of years, I was kind of thinking I wasn't sure if I redshirt or if I play or what that was kind of going to look like. I'm having a year to really prepare before going up there. But after this year, they're really starting to see me more as an active on the team starting next year. So I'm really just trying to work on being as ready as I can. And then I think I go up there really sometime June 15th or sometime around there. So that's in 3 or 4 months. So I'm just really trying to prepare and get in the best shape I can be in so I can get up there and just start working.
Awesome. I appreciate your guys' time. I got one last question, and this is for Coach. If Jackson helps the resurgence of the Husky program back in the right direction, and he's playing in the NCAA tournament, which will kick off in about 10 days or so, what kind of emotions will you have knowing one of your former players is playing in the big dance?
You know, when I was scrambling home, I got tipped off that he had been named to the McDonald's All-American team. I was literally getting burgers for people at my house, and somebody asked me where I was, and I was literally shaking. I couldn't even remember the name of this burger joint I've been to a million times. And I feel like it'll be that same way. You know, Mark Bigelow played for me in the 90s and ended up playing for BYU. And I remember scrambling over to Spokane to watch him play Syracuse in the NCAA tournament. And it was almost surreal. And same thing would be for Jackson. You know, I do believe he'll play in the NCAA tournament. And that will be such a big deal for the community. He just is absolutely adored in this community by young and old alike. High fives everybody he sees, and when that McDonald's All-American jersey's hanging outside Chick Rocky Gymnasium in Olympia, it'll be that way forever. And so seeing Jackson in the NCAA tournament will be something that we will all celebrate in this town.
Well, I appreciate your guys' time. Jackson, again, congrats on being a McDonald's All-American. Best of luck with your future endeavors at the University of Washington. Coach, I know you're excited to get back on the floor, and it's looking like May, and hopefully that's the case. So thanks again for joining.
Thanks for having us.
The ISO with Dan Dickau and SB Live Sports, brought to you by the Believe Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network for professionals.